Welcome to the Churchosity Podcast. If you're looking for a place to have fun and edifying conversations about church culture, then you've landed in the right spot. What's going on, everybody? My name is Heath Brady.
And I'm Andrea Brady.
And we are your Churchosity Podcast personnel. Coming at you.
In 2025.
2025. Still.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, it is January, so we've got quite a while to
I dare say that we're doing better than most people with New Year's resolutions.
You better not say that. You'll jinx yourself.
That's true. I just threw us under the bus unwittingly. So, Miss Andrea.
Yes.
How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great?
Yeah.
What's great?
Feeling good. Light and skippy.
Is it my turn to talk about the weather?
No, I'm not talking about the weather.
No, well...
I have been eating healthier.
We both have.
Since the beginning of the year. And we've not stepped on the scale.
No.
Which is kind of a good thing, I think. I'm enjoying not looking at that number.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
I have more energy. And my clothes feel better. Like they're more comfortable. And just moving around, I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lots more fruits, vegetables, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No red meat.
No. Unless, maybe once every couple weeks.
Yeah.
But...
makes a huge difference in the joints.
Yeah. And fish. I've been eating some fish.
Yeah. Fish tacos.
Yes. Fish tacos.
Very delicious. Yeah, lots of white meat.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
Yeah,
we've been doing good.
We're kicking booty.
Yeah.
Kicking booty. And all around feeling better because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Taking our vitamin.
Vitamins. Vitamins, yes. It's all about protein and vitamins and fiber.
Every time I talk about vitamins, I think of our youngest.
Audrey.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this trip that we were planning when she was, maybe 7.
Yeah,
something.
she's pretty little, pretty young.
She's real little.
Yep.
And she wanted to go, we were going to go to Disneyland. And she wanted to go on that roller coaster, the one in California Adventure.
Then California Screamin'.
Yeah.
Now the Incredicoaster.
So we went online and we looked at the height requirements, and then we got her up against the wall and measured her with the tape measure.
I believe it's 48 inches is the height requirement.
Yeah, and she was like 46 maybe, and our trip was like, let's say maybe 4 or 5 months out.
Yeah, it was a ways away.
Yeah. And so I said, well, the best we can do is take our vitamins.
And did she take Flintstones?
She did. She took a little Flintstone vitamin.
Vitamins, yeah.
And
every day.
Lo and behold, when we
Mommy,
got there.
don't forget my Flintstones.
She said my Vimin.
Vimin. Don't forget my Vimin.
Yeah. So, and lo and behold, we got down there. She stood up to that little measuring stick, and she made it. Yep,
it scraped her scalp. Just enough that she was tall enough.
And then guess what happened? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. It was pouring down rain.
It started to rain, yeah.
So Audrey's first time on that roller coaster that she worked so hard to meet the height requirements for was mainly ridden with her eyes closed because the rain was like little pellets hitting us in the face.
Yeah, they were like little daggers.
Yeah. It hurt. I remember that.
But it was fun.
All of our faces were red when we got off that ride. But she got off the ride. She was all smiles. She's like, I did it.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. No, I'm good. You're tall enough. You'll be tall enough next time we come.
Exactly.
I think we did ride it another time on that trip, though, when it wasn't raining.
We did.
That's a fun story. I love that story.
Take your vitamins.
Take your vitamins.
Vitamin.
That's right. Well, Andy.
Yes.
I'm excited about our conversation today.
Good.
We're going to have some fun.
Okay.
And believe it or not, there are many, many passages of scripture in the Bible that discuss the very thing that we are going to be talking about on this episode.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
As part of our very long, ongoing conversation about the necessity of serving in your local church, on this episode, we are going to talk about hospitality.
Ooh, hospitality.
Hospitality.
I like this one.
And that doesn't mean going to visit people in the hospital.
It doesn't?
Well, that can be part of hospitality, but I think that because the word hospital is in the word hospitality, some might get it confused with, I got to visit people in the hospital. Okay,
right.
But it's more than that. So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna deep dive into what is and what is not hospitality and why it matters in the body of Christ. But before we dive into that conversation, we want to remind all of you to please give us a rating and leave us a review, because your ratings and your reviews help us so much. They help it make us so much easier for people to find us and help popularize Churchosity as well. And we want to encourage everyone to also check out our website. Churchosity.com is the home for all things Churchosity. Episodes, links to YouTube videos, merch, etc. So head over to churchosity.com, give it a gander, hang out for a while, and enjoy. That's churchosity.com. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Andy.
Yeah.
Hospitality.
Where do you start with that?
Man, well...
Are you a hospitable person?
I know I'm supposed to be. But I think that hospitality can really be demonstrated from two very definite vantage points. The first vantage point is I'm almost wondering if it's a gene. Like if someone can get the hospitality gene. Because like my grandmother was literally the most hospitable person that I ever knew in my entire life.
Right.
And because of that, I feel like that's where I learned it from.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with how you were raised and what kind of what your home life was like growing up.
Sure.
For myself, in my heart, I want to be hospitable, but I have a lot of anxiety about it because growing up, we never ever had people over to our house. And so I don't know, it was weird. It's like our house is like us four close the door.
Yeah. Well, I think that the other vantage point, and probably the more prominent one, is that it's taught. Like you were saying, it's something that's taught either through example,
right,
or through instruction. So I thought that having the conversation about hospitality, we could define what we think or what we assume or what we know hospitality is, and also what it is not. I'll save the is not for a little bit later in the conversation because I think that is going to open a can of worms possibly.
Ooh, okay.
So we'll save that fun for a little bit later in the conversation. But Andy?
Yeah.
In your best articulation, what would you say the gift of hospitality is?
The gift of hospitality.
Yeah, if someone has the gift of hospitality, or if somebody is demonstrating being hospitable to someone.
I think it's the gift of making someone feel welcome and at home. Kind of instinctively almost seeing what their needs are and meeting that need.
Right.
And just kind of, and not being afraid to reach out and make a person feel like they can relax and that they're welcome. Yeah.
You know, remember that old saying, make yourself at home?
Yeah.
Or my house is your house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My grandmother was that kind of a person through and through. Like almost to a fault. Because whether it was a planned meal or not, if you showed up on my grandmother's front doorstep, not only were you welcomed in, because, you know, when we were kids especially, and even up through our 20s, we're Gen Xers, so we were very much, I was in the neighborhood, right? Even if you were just in the neighborhood and you're like, I'm going to stop in and see how Grammy's doing, right?
Right, exactly.
And even if you just show up unannounced at the door, whatever the reason was, you were welcomed in, you were pampered, you were catered to. And whether there was a planned meal or you were interrupting a meal or there was no meal involved, she made sure that you did not leave her house empty-handed. Like if it was, say, the middle of the afternoon, right. So it's in between lunch and dinner time, right? Because we had definite lunch and dinner time when we were kids. True. She would say, "What are you doing for dinner?" And whether you had plans for dinner or not, she would say, "Oh, let me make you a plate." And she would be so like offended if you didn't say yes and take a plate home with you. If you interrupted a meal, she would get up from eating her meal and make you a plate of what was being eaten for you to take. But if it was a planned meal, not only did she want to make sure that you filled both stomachs, that's what she used to say, Heath, you need to fill both your stomachs.
Oh boy.
She would make sure that there were leftovers going home with you also. So it was the welcoming, it was the inviting, it was the pampering, it was the spoiling, it was the paying attention to the needs of, it was all of those things, and sending the visitor away fully satisfied with extra, like almost enticing to come back again. You know, anytime I left my grandma's house, I couldn't wait to go back, especially if there was food involved.
Right.
So that's kind of like the all-encompassing idea of hospitality, and we generally tend to equate hospitality with our homes. You know, inviting people into our homes. We're doing everything we possibly can to invite people into our homes, to spend time with people in our homes, to make people feel welcome in our homes. And that is all true. That is all what hospitality is. But everything that I just said and you just said to describe hospitality, what does that look like in the local church?
Right.
Because we're talking about the necessity for serving in our local churches. So what does hospitality look like in our church?
You know, I think of Sunday morning, I think of greeters, people welcoming people into the church, holding the door open for them. I think about like a hospitality bar, like where you can have coffee or something.
Donut holes.
Yeah.
Our church has donut holes.
I don't know.
Well,
a Connect Center.
Something, some sort of a Connect Center for people who are visiting, especially to get information or ask questions or whatever. Let me help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a numbers and data guy, and numbers and data do not lie. They just don't. And there is a staggering statistic that has lingered around in church culture for arguably the last 10 to 15 years, especially because the number keeps going up. But when I last checked, which would be as of 2022, so maybe the number's gone down, maybe it's at 100%, but as of 2022, almost 93% of visitors to a church have determined already whether or not they are going to return for a second or a third time by the time they've sat down in the sanctuary.
Wow. So
it literally has almost nothing to do with what actually goes on during the service itself.
Okay.
It's literally the experience that a person has from their car to their pew. So with that statistic in mind, think about everything we said to define hospitality and apply it to the local church on how we can meet that need of hospitality for a visitor who is going to make a decision whether or not to come back before they sit down.
Mm-hmm. Here's something else I'm thinking. You're talking about the car, from the car to the in the parking lot to the front door.
That's what the statistic is, yes.
But let me go a little further than that.
Dig a little deeper.
Dig a little deeper. What about before they got in the car? What determined them wanting to come to the church in the first place?
Ooh.
Were they invited by somebody they know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's part of the hospitality, even before they get to the church.
And to go one step further, if they've already been once or twice, that's still a conversation that's being had in the living room, in the driveway, before backing out. All the reasons why we should or should not attend such and such church. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. How good of a job did we do in our hospitality the first time they showed up? Because let's be honest, especially in America, first impressions are everything.
Yeah.
First impressions are everything. Now, don't hear me say entertainment. Don't hear me say put on a good show. Because that's not what I'm saying. You know, real service for the kingdom is authentic, genuine, and honest.
Right. I think people are looking for real connections.
Exactly. I've told this. I don't know if I've told this story on any of our podcast episodes before, but years and years and years ago, I was invited to a church where a friend of mine's kid's former youth pastor just got called to be the lead pastor of a church. And they called me and said, hey, would you come to my church this Sunday to support so-and-so, because he just became the pastor and there aren't very many people in the church. So could you come and be supported? I was like, absolutely, because this was a good friend of mine and, you know, etc. So I went, and I will never forget this as long as I live. I walked through the front door. Now, I'm a stranger off the street. I've never even been to the city where this church is. Okay. Like I'm literally nobody in this community. Mm-hmm. And I walked through the front door into the lobby or narthex, and a gentleman older than myself was passing out bulletins. And he looked at me and shook my hand and handed me a bulletin and said, hello, welcome to such and such a church. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoy your time here. Lord bless you. It was just like real authentic. There wasn't, you know, the, hey, welcome to church today. What brings you in? How long is this your first time here? Like visitors don't like getting, verbally assaulted by greeters. They just want to be welcomed in, right? And so whatever anxiety existed in my heart or in my mind when I walked through the door of that church for the first time, gone, completely gone. So when I'm talking about first impressions, when I'm talking about that experience, that first impression that our churches make with the hospitality team, for lack of a better term, it's that, because we've all been through it. I would say that the vast majority of us have been through the experience of looking for a home church, whether it's a move or you left a church and you're looking for whatever it might be, to be in that position of looking for a new place to worship regularly. When that comes up, there's a lot of anxiety that goes into that for whatever reason. And we've talked about all the different reasons, and there's many more that we could probably address as well, of what would cause that anxiety or nervous tension or lack of excitement or enthusiasm to go to a church for the first time. And so the gift of hospitality, the act of hospitality, is meeting that need, which is, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I may not even really want to be here, but I'm here. For whatever the reason is that person came to church. Number one, it's not our business to find out what that reason was. Second of all, what is our business is to love them like Christ would love them. and say, come on in. Hope you enjoy yourself today. Welcome to worship. Thank you for being here. Just smooth, simple, and honest. You know, I don't like car salesmen at the front door. I don't like it. It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Like, all right, where's my wallet? You know.
Yeah.
So
and not everybody's comfortable chit-chatting like with strangers. I mean, you have to get over that a little bit if you're coming to church in person. People are going to say hi.
Well, I think that's part of the anxiety too, but also knowing that you're most likely not going to know anybody there, even if you were invited by somebody. So you're walking through that door looking for Joe person who invited you to like save your life, basically.
Like, where is Joe?
And let that person lead the new person around.
Yeah.
And introduce them to people. You know, so let's go one step further. I like to think of Sunday mornings. Again, and we're only talking about the context of Sunday morning. Hospitality goes beyond Sunday morning. But
right now we're just talking about
the 75% of the church hospitality experience is on a Sunday morning. Let's be real. I like to consider Sunday morning like I had everybody over to my house for a potluck. And there's a bunch of people in my house. But I can't like serve every single person all at the same time. Right? So I've got friends that are there. I've got relatives that are there. And somebody comes walking through the door that my friends or my relatives don't particularly know. They're going to go out of their way to mix and mingle. They're going to go out of their way to make them feel welcome. They're going to say, how do you know Keith? How do you know Andrea? You know, that's where that's the fellowship aspect of hospitality. Making somebody feel welcome. Not clamping down on them, not trapping them in a corner and grilling them. No, it's you see them, they look kind of lost, right? And it's that deer in the headlight look. We all have it when we're somewhere strange for the first time. It's obvious, and so be the hands and feet of Christ and go to that person and say, hey, do you need help showing around? Can I help you? You know, and a lot of times people are just like, where's the bathroom? Sometimes people are, which way to the sanctuary? What time does church start? Whatever it might be, to be available. And in a lot of churches, part of the quote hospitality committee, whatever you guys call it is whatever you guys call it. But that team of folks that are greeters and whatnot, it's a good idea to have somebody on that team that their responsibility is to host someone that is new and be available. Remember, honey, there was a church that we ended up going to for a long time, but our first Sunday there, we actually fit the description of this statistic. Because I remember when we left the church that day, I said, I want to go back to this church, and it has nothing to do with the preaching or the worship or anything else. It's because that one person who met us in the lobby and showed us where the children's ministry was and showed us where the coffee was and showed us where the bathrooms were, all that stuff, they were invested in me, and they didn't have to spend any time with me at all.
That's true.
That's hospitality. And she didn't put on a show. She just said, you have kids? Yes, I have kids. All right. Well, the Sunday school wing is back there. See the sign? I'll let you go ahead and go back and figure that out for you. And when you're done, come back and find me, and I'll answer any questions. It's the willingness, right?
Yeah.
It's the heart. Hospitality. Hospitality. I was reading this really interesting article, so I'm borrowing some information from an article called It's thejoyfullifemagazine.com, and it's a magazine article that was written by Shannon Atchison, I want to say, in December of 2022. So this article is a couple years old, but it's 10 hospitality Bible verses plus a helpful hospitality checklist for you.
Okay, I like checklists.
Well, you have to really, really, really dig deep down into this article to find the checklist to see what hospitality is. But the context of this article really revolves around the home.
Okay.
So it's kind of one-dimensional in that regard. But there are certain key points this gal wrote in her article that really do apply to the local church's hospitality. Like, for instance, she says, I think a huge part of a lovely home is seen and experienced in how well and how often we welcome others in. If that doesn't scream hospitality in your local church, I don't know what does. So change that around a little bit. I think a huge part of what a lovely church is seen and experienced is how well and how often we welcome others in.
Okay.
How's your welcoming game?
Yeah.
I think that's a key factor to determining hospitality. Now, I mentioned earlier, alluding to what hospitality is not. Hospitality is not entertaining. Technically, they're two completely different things. Entertaining is just that. It's just putting on a show, right? So this gal in this article, she says that one of the big reasons that we don't invite others into our homes is because our hospitality doesn't look like we think it should look. And this is hospitality versus entertaining, right?
Oh.
So when you think about hospitality in the local church, especially on a Sunday morning, we think about it typically through the lens of entertainment. What's our technology like? What's our music like? What's our lighting like? Do we have things to hold kids' attention? And certainly in 2025, with technology and with culture, those are conversations about a worship service. But that's not hospitality. That's entertaining.
Okay.
And she's right on the money. We have this idea in our head that hospitality is entertaining, meaning that if I invite someone to my house and I didn't vacuum the floor before they came over, they're not going to feel welcome. Well, that has nothing to do with it. That's an entertainment piece. If I can't get a certain football game because I'm blacked out because of where I live, and I'm inviting the guys over, are they not going to feel welcome? No, that's entertainment. They're coming for entertainment, but they're still going to feel welcome.
That's true.
Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
But then she flips it around in this article. Instead of hospitality, instead of entertaining, she says now entertaining versus hospitality. And she says, unfortunately, all of this striving for perfection has turned genuine hospitality into something it was never meant to be. And that's what I'm talking about. Is that, my grandmother, she didn't have cable.
No.
She got 4 channels, depending on how good the rabbit ears were doing. And she watched the same shows every single day. In other words, my grandmother didn't invite you over to watch a show. My grandmother invited you over because she wanted to spend time with you. And she wanted to get, if you showed up with somebody, she genuinely was interested in the person that you brought too.
True.
And she would send them home with some leftovers too. So do you understand the different connotation here between entertaining and hospitality?
Yes.
Because in our church culture, I think that we strive to entertain and not to welcome. And there is a huge difference between the two. The difference between entertaining and hospitality is this. Entertaining is all about the house and the home and look at me, while hospitality is about obedience to God and serving and loving on our neighbors.
Oh.
That's what she wrote to summarize the point between hospitality and entertainment. So the difference between entertaining and hospitality is this. Entertainment is all about my church, my ministry, pay attention to me. But hospitality is all about I'm being obedient to God and serving and loving every person who comes through that door.
Wow.
It's a huge difference, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
There are several verses in the Bible that talk about hospitality. And depending on the church leadership model that your church has, listeners, things might look a little different, whether you're an elder-led church or a congregationally led church, but the point is still the same. It's interesting that church leadership is commanded to be hospitable. Did you know this?
No.
You didn't know this?
I don't think so.
Well, there's two passages of scripture that in most Protestant churches is used to qualify leadership, elders and deacons, overseers and workers, right? One of them is from 1 Timothy chapter 3, and the other one is from Titus chapter 1. Mm-hmm. Both those passages allude to an overseer must be above reproach, and then there's a bunch of different qualifiers, and then it says hospitable. So if someone desires to be an overseer, an elder, a pastor, a shepherd, if someone wants to be in the role of an overseer of their church, whatever that looks like in your capacity,
some kind of leadership,
mm-hmm. They are commanded to be hospitable. And you know what's not on that list that you're commanded to be?
Be an entertainer.
Nowhere on there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In Titus chapter 1, verse 8, it says, rather he must be hospitable, one who loves what is good, self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty deep. I mean, hospitable is a big deal, right? 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 8 and 9 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Grumbling. Christians don't like to grumble.
Why would we grumble?
Christians don't grumble.
Right.
We don't ever complain about anything.
No murmuring.
Yeah, exactly. But Peter says, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. It's a willingness of heart. I'm willing to be used at any given moment by the prompting and leading of the Holy Spirit to love on XYZ person that walks through the door, whether I know him or not.
Right. So I looked up the Greek word for hospitable.
Oh, look at you.
Hee. And it means generous to guests. What do you know?
Thanks for listening, everyone. We can just go home now.
It means generous to guests.
Generous to guests.
But be generous to guests without grumbling. I mean, I can't. Yeah. Be generous to guests without grumbling. And in the Greek, it means murmuring.
Yeah.
Or grudging.
Ooh.
I can't imagine being a complainer or murmuring or grudging a guest.
Yeah, acting begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Because there's one more person I got to take care of.
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends.
Yeah. But when you stop and close your eyes and really think critically and ask yourself, am I hospitable or does it need some work? These verses, seeing what these words are in the Greek, it's very convicting. It's very challenging. And here's the thing. Almost 93% of visitors in our churches make their decision whether or not they're going to come back based on this.
Right.
Based on how welcoming everyone has been to them. I find that just staggering.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know what's worse. That statistic existing or how many numbers of people don't come back.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't come back.
Based on this. It's kind of baffling to me. But obviously, in our church culture, there is a huge need and a much higher calling for hospitality, a much higher calling for being welcoming to guests in our church. And one of the things, sad to say, that congregations are known for is being cliquey.
Yeah.
It's not to say there's anything wrong with having your church bestie.
No.
I mean, we all have our church besties, right? I mean, I have people that I love fellowshipping with and talking with and meeting with specifically because they're kind of my church besties. But at the same time, hospitality is not catering to your besties because technically they're not guests.
True.
Unless you technically invite them into your home. But then they can be like family, and it's like, the food's not going to serve itself. Go ahead. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about guests, right? When we came down to California to visit the church that I'm now pastoring, the folks at Emmanuel laid out the red carpet for us.
Oh, man.
Not treating us like celebrities.
No.
They treated us like family. They treated us like we'd always been here. And they made sure that we felt welcome wherever we were, whoever we were around. They made sure that we were catered to when they were taking us on tours of cities and stores and areas, whatever.
Showing us around.
They made sure that they did their darndest to make sure that after being here for a week, we would want to come back. And none of it had to do with see how great our church is. It was see how much we're going to love you and love on you.
That's true.
And that's what I'm talking about here. And remember, honey, you said that congregation better say yes and call you to be their pastor, because if they don't, it's really going to make me mad because I loved it there. In fact, I loved it so much there that even if they don't call you, we're selling everything and moving down there anyway because I want to go to that church. That's how much hospitality matters, ladies and gentlemen. And for you longtime listeners, you know that Andrea and I have suffered church hurt and church abuse. So we need that hospitality like on a different level than Joe Visitor.
Yeah.
Right? And I tell you what, man, I have a genuine love and affection for the body of Christ. I truly believe that the local church is supposed to be central, like the biggest priority of your Christian life, because that's where everything launches from or comes through. But to feel welcome, it goes so far. It goes so far. And having been the pastor now for, several months later, that hasn't gone away.
No.
I'm still treated like family. And so are you.
Right.
And we're not perfect. No church is perfect. And everybody needs a little tune-up or a complete engine overhaul in the area of hospitality. And that's why we're having this conversation.
So is hospitality only for guests, or are we hospitable to one another as we are in the church together? Don't you think it also extends to our brothers and sisters that go to church with us as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, but no favoritism.
No.
Hospitality is not favoritism. Peter did that. And Paul confronted him about it in the book of Galatians.
Right.
There's no preferential treatment in hospitality. It's see a need and fill it. You see someone, do something. It's that cut and dry, really. And I understand that just like any area that we might discuss in this long conversation, like evangelism, there are people who literally have the gift of evangelism, but we're all called to do the work of an evangelist. So there's different levels, different degrees, different extensions of how this is applied. And certainly hospitality being a gift of the Spirit in and of itself, there are some people who are just bred to do this.
True.
Like they were knit together in their mother's womb, and God said that person's going to have the gift of hospitality. That's how it works. But we're all called to be welcoming to guests.
True.
Whether they're first-time visitors or long-time members. It's all about the condition of our heart. It's all about the attitude. It's an others first orientation.
Cool.
It's making sure that everybody else is welcome, and that I have done everything that I possibly can to make sure that they feel welcome. And that's hospitality. And it's so necessary and so needed. And maybe for those of us who are attending churches where attendance is down, membership is down, people have left the church without saying why. Whatever it might be, if you're listening right now and you're looking at your church as a whole and you're going, okay, why is our attendance down? Why do we have fewer people here? Have a conversation about hospitality.
Right.
How welcoming are we? And that might help solve the riddle. If it doesn't, it's something else, and maybe we'll hit on that in this long conversation in future episodes. But for right now, I challenge all of our listeners, give your church a litmus test. Give your heart a litmus test. Am I hospitable? Are we hospitable? Am I welcoming to guests? Am I loving like Jesus would with anyone and all who walk through the door?
Amen. That's all we have to say about that.
Thank you for listening to the Churchosity podcast. Don't forget to give us a rating, and please don't forget to leave us a review. On our next episode, we'll continue talking about specific areas of ministry that are necessary for serving in our local churches. Over to you, Andy.
Be sure to check out our website, that's churchosity.com, where you can follow us on all the socials, become a Churchosity Patreon, and you can also drop us a message. Just give us your feedback because we'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget to spread the word about Churchosity Podcast by just simply telling a friend to tell a friend what we're doing here.
Yeah, let them be a part of the conversation too.
But always remember that the goal of our instruction is love.
From a pure heart.
And from a good conscience.
And a sincere faith.
So we thank you all once again for listening, and we hope to catch you on the next episode of Churchosity Podcast.
Peace.